Well, once again, endlessly, black folk took another foot to the chest, this time by the Supreme Court. Unbelievable what happened yesterday. I had already recorded the program, so I couldn't comment on it yesterday, but I have a tendency to let these horrific events have a day to percolate, I guess you would say, before I add my 2 cents worth. As you know by now, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, race-based affirmative action. See, black folk apparently are not supposed to have a goddamn leg up for anything. Oh, what did John Roberts write? Well, you know, it's been 60 years now since the Civil Rights Act. Everything is cool. Black folk don't, I mean, it's all right there for them if they want it. And the son of a bitches who come up with that, and it's always white people, they discount the 4 centuries prior to the 60 years that they like to reference. They don't consider generation after generation after generation of people who were enslaved in this country, who were told if they learned to read, they would be goddamn killed, who were force-fed Christian bullshit, who told them, be satisfied with where you are, little black slave, don't worry about it, you'll get to heaven. 400 years of this shit. So 45, 50 years ago, an effort was made. Okay, let's have affirmative action. Let's give our black brothers and sisters a chance. And it was pointed out yesterday, affirmative action never said that an unqualified person, an unqualified black person, would take the place in a college enrollment of a qualified white person. That is the bullshit that the right-wingers and the Christian Nazis and the racists have been putting out ever since affirmative action was declared not only legal and necessary, but something that should have been done a long time ago. And then these bastards today, I think it was Clarence Thomas, or which one was it? I can't believe Uncle Clarence. That man has had his head totally messed up by his white old lady. Believe me on that. Oh my God, has she gotten inside his head? I'm talking about Ginny Thomas. But to infer or to suggest or to state categorically with your Supreme Court ruling that everything's okay now. Hey, we're all equal. No big deal. Oh, no problem. I mean, that is ignorance. First of all, it's not true. When you have 20 generations of black folk who were either enslaved or Jim Crowed or treated like dirt by white people, but, oh, hey, listen, everything's cool now. You want to go to University of North Carolina? You want to go to Harvard? You want to go to Columbia? Well, you're just going to have to stand back where it concerns affirmative action. I ask this question with all humility and intent to get an answer. My question is simply, what the hell was wrong with affirmative action? What was it that was taking away from white people that these white devils on the Supreme Court and this monstrous son of a bitch, Uncle Clarence, felt it was necessary to say to black folk, well, you know, screw you. What is it? Or what was it, about affirmative action that said universities, colleges can make some admission decisions to a degree based on race? And now that's been taken away. What is left to rip away from black folk after 4 centuries of being kicked in the fucking face over and over and over and over again. What is left? What are they going to take away next? But I'll tell you, this miserable white demon Donald Trump, boy, he hates women and he hates black people. So he stacks the Supreme Court with people who are willing to put into action Donald Trump's hatred. Take away from women sovereignty over their own bodies. Take away from black folk even a chance of getting an even break. Jesus Christ Almighty, which makes me just further get enraged at the people who voted for Jill Stein in 2016 because they just couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. God damn. As you know, the cases regarded to Harvard and the University of North Carolina. They considered race in their admissions process. And then these justices, in the majority opinion, they said that the admissions process that used race as one factor was a violation of the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. God damn! Talk about adding insult to injury, slapping black folk right in the goddamn face. That amendment was established to give rights to formerly enslaved people. I know I'm yelling. I apologize. I'm sorry. The court ruled 6-3 in the University of North Carolina case and 6-2 in the Harvard case because Justice Ketanji Brown, being a Supreme Court justice who believes in the rule of law, believes in recusing herself. Didn't she go to Harvard? But the white devils and this black man who's had his brain eaten by his white wife, oh, they didn't have any problem. Not at all. And John Roberts wrote the majority opinion. Listen, the impact of this decision is going to ripple through this country for God knows how long, for decades. And it's going to disadvantage white people on so many levels. This is the nose of the camel under the tent. What about hiring practices? What about affirmative action that has been used effectively and righteously where it concerned hiring black folk into upper level positions? What's going to happen to that next? Oh, and as you have heard over and over again, white affirmative action where it concerns college and universities wasn't touched. I'm talking about legacy admissions. Daddy went to Yale? Well, Junior just stepped right up. And yet we're to believe that this, they ruled this way because race-based admissions is just, violation of the 14th Amendment. You son of a bitches. So once again, the Trump Supreme Court overturns almost another half century of precedent after the Supreme Court first approved the use of affirmative action back in 1978. Was that the Bakke case, I think? So this court and all three of these Trump-appointed justices should be thrown out on their asses, and they should be brought to trial, or whatever you call it, for perjury in front of the Senate. Every one of these bastards said, well, if it's established law, I believe in a precedent, jumble. And then the first goddamn chance they have, they overturn Roe v. Wade. The second chance they have, they overturn affirmative action. You dirty, filthy. It stays like yesterday, where when I heard about this yesterday afternoon, because I'm a Caucasian, I just wanted to crawl back in bed, pull the covers over my head, and not goddamn leave the house for fear of showing my white face to people here in Atlanta I might come across who are non-white. I don't want the look. Oh, I know, they're not blaming me. I never owned slaves. Oh, Jesus. But Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, I think that all that needs to be said was said in her fiery dissent. This is a justice. Dear God, I wish we had more like her on the court. She wrote a 29-page dissent criticizing her conservative, they're not conservatives, Justice Brown or Justice Jackson, they are white supremacists. Yeah, even Uncle Clarence. But she went after her colleague's decision to reject affirmative action in college admission decisions. One of the things she said, she wrote in her dissenting opinion, quote, with let them eat cake obliviousness, today the majority pulls the ripcord and announces color blindness for all by legal fiat. But deeming race irrelevant in law does not make it so in life, end quote. Justice Jackson had recused herself, like I mentioned, because of her ties to Harvard. Both these cases were decided along ideological lines, with the court's 6 Christian fascists voting to destroy one more thing that black folk had. It took a goddamn constitutional amendment, the 14th Amendment, just to protect the rights of black people. How did that go over, huh? Well, it had some moments of success, didn't it? Until these bastards came along. Why does it take, in so many instances, not all, I mean, if you're white and you listen to this podcast, God knows I'm not talking about you. And I watched yesterday just a parade of white people going on MSNBC with shock and disgust and, in some cases, fury about why 5 Catholic white Nazis and 1 black Catholic Nazi, what they did yesterday. Okay, fascist. But when pointing out the Supreme Court was paying no attention to this country's history, what the hell is wrong with these people? Do they think that the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries never happened and a good chunk of the 20th? Apparently so. Justice Jackson compared the majority on the court to ostriches sticking their necks in the sand. She said this, quote, no one benefits from ignorance. Although formal race-linked legal barriers are gone, race still matters to the lived experience of all Americans in innumerable ways, and today's ruling makes things worse, not better. And she added, quote, the best that can be said of the majority's perspective is that it proceeds ostrich-like from the hope that preventing consideration of race will end racism. But if that is its motivation, the majority proceeds in vain, end quote. And this is where I fully agree. You don't have to be. I am just shocked that 5 white people on the Supreme Court had the goddamn, what's the word I'm looking for? The nerve to say that stopping the consideration of race where it concerns to not the sole basis of college admission, but one of the bases, that somehow that'll end racism. God damn, that increases racism. It increases it. It guarantees that it's going to continue and continue and continue. I will ask the question I've been asking for years. How much more of this shit are black Americans going to tolerate? It's endless. Slaps in the face, ropes around the neck, dragging behind goddamn pickups, told to get the fuck out of this school because you're black. Get out of my place of business because you're black. You can't eat at this lunch counter. You can't drink at this soda fountain. Who was it that said, I'm paraphrasing, but America better hope that there's no such thing as karmic justice, given some of the shit that we've done. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.